important to understand that the scale has changed enormously. And in a way that, putting it in historical perspective, we've heard about 10,000 years, but if we think about the dramatic increase, the acceleration of the progress of science in the last 200 years, and we have to understand that at the same time, there's been an expansion in the participation in science and the participation in knowledge creation by larger society, simply because people are more educated and the whole scientific community has become much larger. So this has also accelerated the growth of knowledge. And what I want to talk about today is methods and ideas from economics and other fields that will essentially help us talk about how we foster and perpetuate this process, possibly even improve it. So I want to talk briefly today about how to organize research production and then dissemination to achieve the objectives. But I want to focus particularly, and it's very much consistent and I think complementary with what we just heard about the question of the role of intellectual property, in particular patents and copyrights. But I want to consider these issues a little more broadly, not just in the area of drug research, although that's very important, but I want to talk about it, but also in the areas for software in particular and many other aspects of modern technologies. Now, economists have addressed these problems, and at the end I'll give you a short reading list of papers and books that you might want to study if you're interested, because I think there's been a serious rethinking of these issues. Not that challenges it, but I think enriches our discussion in the way it's previously cast. And if you look at some of the work that's being done, and the work by political scientists and lawyers, there's a heavy reliance on frameworks developed by economists. And so frequently people hear terms like public goods, excludable goods, non-rivalrous goods, etc. And they've entered the discussion. So I will not use a lot of jargon, but what I will use is draw and explain some of these basic ideas. So today I want to talk about some of these basic issues. And the issues are how to develop proper incentives, who should pay, and what the proper charges might be. Secondly, I want to consider the case for patents and other protections of intellectual property rights. So I want to broaden the issue of intellectual property. And I want to consider the case for strengthening or weakening the current system of intellectual property rights. Third, I want to consider the empirical evidence on patents, not just in pharmaceuticals, but in general. And what do we know about the record on patenting and other forms of trademarks, copyrights, and the like? Do they encourage innovations, and are they necessary? So let me just frame what the debate is and try to state it in simple terms and then try to bring some evidence to bear on it. The debate is about the following issues, and there's nobody who denies this, and I think it's been stated already and will probably be stated again today, that patents and intellectual property generally certainly create incentives for people to produce. If you can own the fruits of your labor, you're more likely to produce them and work hard to achieve them. There's no question about that. And in fact, that goes back to basic human psychology or economic incentives. At the same time, the contrast and the conflict has always been between what economists would call monopoly, or anybody would, I guess, these days, and the question of what the cost might be of monopoly. And we know that generally, and economists have written on this for hundreds of years now, is that the monopolies by themselves have certain positive features, like, for example, creating patents, creating incentives to produce new knowledge. But at the same time, they can reduce consumer welfare. A monopolist essentially has reduced incentives by raising the price, restricting the entry, by trying to extract the maximum welfare. One shows analytically in a large body of work in welfare economics and common sense would suggest the monopolist might use colorful terms, price gouge, or try to price discriminate, and try to achieve certain objectives that might actually reduce consumer welfare. And so the way that the notion and the way the debate has typically been stated is the conflict between monopoly as a means of producing new property, new ideas, creating patents and the like, and secondly, monopoly as something that reduces consumer welfare. Now, in the current discussions, though, on these issues, a third factor has been introduced, and it's entirely consistent with what we've heard in the introductory remarks, both sets of introductory remarks. And that is that what we know now is, that, and it's a commonplace observation, but one that doesn't really make its way so clearly to pattern